I am so happy right now. Look, I am back in the studio. Although we are still shelter in place here in the Bay Area, me and the studio mate worked out a schedule to where he's like not in the studio 3 days before I come in, and vice versa, so that we're not kind of like contaminating each other's air. I love being back. I miss this place a lot, and I figured while I'm back in the studio, this would be a great time to share some tips that will help you figure out when you need to go into the studio or when you can just take care of it from home. It's really nice to be back. Still have my COVID hair though. None of the hairstylists are open yet, so I don't know. A little piece of hair just keeps sticking up and there's nothing I can do about it. Hey all, Ed Moncler, aka Spooky Rockstar. Here at Big Music Energy, we're trying to be the people we needed when we first started out. I noticed a lot of artists that come through here, they're either coming into the studio too early or they're too late. Now the ones that are too early are kind of unprepared, and then on the other side of things, there are the people who are coming in too late, where they've recorded so much at home, but they really didn't record it that well, so we have to redo some of those parts. So in order for you guys to avoid being either too early or too late, we're going to try to give you this list that'll help you determine whether you're ready to go into the studio. Now the last one is almost a no-brainer, so make sure to watch all the way through to make sure you have that one down. Let's start off on the list. Now on a minimal budget, most of you can pick up a mic and maybe a guitar and an amp and some basic recording software. We have a video for that. But at a major studio, we have a whole bunch of drum sets, we have a whole bunch of guitars, we have a whole bunch of amps, we have a whole bunch of vocal mics. Having all that equipment helps us dial in the sound that you are going for really quick. And all this stuff you see behind me here, that isn't just for show. Some of those pieces are like $7,000 to $9,000. It'd be really expensive if it was just put there to look good. You could just buy some fine art for that and put it up in the studio walls and be better. Now, all that stuff back there really helps dial in your sound in ways that home gear cannot. Now, I know a lot of plugin companies will convince you that their plugins will get you 80% of the way there. And there are some really good plugins out there, but that leads me to my next tip. So say you have a bunch of plugins or you have a bunch of money and you bought a whole bunch of really good gear. If you don't know how to use it, it's gonna sound terrible.
What's it look like in there?
It seems to run on some form of electricity.
Me and Georgianne used to operate out of a studio that was built in a backyard by some rock stars. They really did have a shit ton of money to build like a $2 million studio in their backyard, but they didn't know how to use a lot of it. And neither did we, because I'm a producer and Georgianne's a producer. A lot of the engineering stuff is handled by our studio mate, Rayto. So even working with the best of the best gear, we made better recordings here with someone who knew how to use it than we did at that $2 million studio. When I first started working with Rayto, he showed me a trick on an SSL compressor that I hadn't seen in any tutorial, and I had watched a lot of tutorials. These guys who own this gear and actually use it professionally every day have a whole bunch of tricks like that. They know just how to get the perfect sound out of the gear so that even when they're using the plugin emulations, they're still using it and getting the most out of them in a way that just isn't done by somebody who doesn't do it professionally. So if you don't have the know-how and you don't have 5-10 years to learn this stuff to its fullest potential, then that's another good tell to know that you need to come into a place like this. On to our next tip. It's not just about the gear and knowing how to use it, but sometimes you just don't have the space at home to do all that. Most people can figure out a space in their home to record guitar or bass or vocals, but drums is a whole nother matter. If you want an amazing drum sound, you need an amazing room. You can get a really good drum sound with plugins, but to get an amazing drum sound, I've yet to be able to do that without a great drum room. Fun fact, ever since Fantasy closed, which was one of the biggest studios here in the Bay Area, now we're one of like 3 places that have really good sounding drum rooms. Even if we were to leave this studio, we'd probably still come back here to record some drums. Sometimes you just don't have the room. Maybe you're one of those bands that needs to record all at the same time instead of overdubbing. It's really hard to get enough room to keep you guys separated to where you're not leaking into each other's mics. And if you live in the Bay Area, it's like $3 million for 500 square feet, so not a lot of people have that kind of space here anyway. If you don't have the room to get what you need done, that is another reason to come into a full-fledged studio. Right, another one that shouldn't be overlooked is atmosphere. Now, I'm not talking visual atmosphere. That's kind of one of the easiest things to pull off at home. Light yourself some candles, get a lava lamp, easy. No, I'm talking about an atmosphere of productivity. let's say you have the gear, let's say you have the plugins, let's say you have all the space you need. Recording at home, it's easy to get distracted by obligations, by partners, by pets, by YouTube. But a studio atmosphere is kind of electric. Things move really quickly in this kind of place. Plus, because of the systematic workflow of the engineers and the producers, we have a video outlining our workflow, by the way. We can get a 16-track album done in like 2 months, recorded, mixed, and mastered, depending on the artist's schedule, of course. I don't really see that kind of productivity happening at home with any kind of quality behind it. Yeah, okay, Phineas and Billy did theirs from their bedroom, but I mean, they had a lot of money behind them at that point, and they did end up taking it to a big studio to finish it out. If you find yourself taking a long time to finish projects, I think that's another reason to maybe consider a professional studio. On to the final tip. Now, this is the one I think is kind of a no-brainer, but we still get people who aren't doing this. Make sure your songs are finished and well rehearsed by the time you come in. There's a simple reason for that. Writing and rehearsing in the studio while on your dime is really expensive. Now, most of the time we don't charge by hour here, but our budgets are based on how long we're in the studio for sure. So if we made a budget estimating time in the studio, and then you start spending way more time than we estimated just because you're rehearsing or finishing the track, we might revise the budget a little bit. So save yourself some money and just know your parts before coming in. The obvious exception is like if improv is your thing. But even if you're improvising some vocal lines or a solo, usually the song's gonna be done before you start doing that. So at least get your song done. You get the idea. Those are the 5 tips. If you don't have the gear you need and you don't want to buy it, if you don't have the time to learn the gear that you do have properly, if you don't have the physical space, if you're not as productive when recording at home, and if your songs are finished and rehearsed, I think then you're absolutely ready to come into the studio. All right, we hope this has been helpful. If you got anything out of this, give us a like, give us a subscribe. We really appreciate it. If you want us to elaborate on anything, or if you have any kind of questions, give us a comment and let us know too. We love talking about this stuff, obviously. We made a YouTube channel out of it. We hope you're well and safe, and we post every Friday, and until then, go write the next big hit. It's really nice to be back.